Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here today with Toonami's ratings for this past Saturday, October 1st, 2022. Let's start at the top of the block. At the top of the block, we have Housing Complex C at a 0.12, Yashahime at a 0.09, Lupin the Third at a 0.09, One Piece at a 0.09, and another episode at 0.09, Naruto Shippuden at a 0.07, Made in Abyss at a 0.05, and another episode at a 0.05. Now, the big note this week is, of course, looking at the premiere ratings for the new show Housing Complex C, the 4-week event, and it was, I think, a decent, pretty good rating, a 0.12. My bar for success is a 0.10 for the very first show of the block now, with, cable cutting and probably more importantly recently, simply not having Family Guy, which people really took for granted at the top of being right before the top of the block for years. And it was shown, since the ratings plummeted the second it got removed, how much of a help that show gave us. And Housing Complex C gets a 0.12 this week. That was, let's compare this to other Toonami original premieres. It did better than virtually every episode of Blade Runner Black Lotus. That's not a high bar. Blade Runner Black Lotus was definitely the black sheep of the Toonami original family. Shenmue kind of played around a 0.12. It had a couple weeks better than that. It had a couple weeks worse than that. So it's around that level. Shenmue, which was generally considered a success. And no, Fena Pirate Princess was airing when we had the changeover of Family Guy leaving the block. And the post-Family Guy episodes pretty much rated around what this episode did. And you can talk about maybe another year or so cable cutting since then. So that actually means arguably Housing Complex C outperformed Fena Pirate Princess. So it outperformed probably 2 of the 3 originals and performed around what one of the other originals were. I'm not counting the Fully Cooley sequels because that was like 4 years ago. 4 years ago at this point. The ratings situation was different. We had Family Guy in front of the block, and also the fact that there was less cable cutting. More people were watching cable 4 years ago. But as comparison, both of those were much, much higher than this. Yet again, I deduce back to Housing Complex C. I would again say this was a really good number to start off with Housing Complex C. It'll be interesting to see where the ratings evolve from here. Again, it's a 4-week event. There's only 3 new episodes left, followed by not yet announced, but I think it's a safe assumption, a marathon the Saturday before Halloween on October 29th. And yeah, it's the number you want to see. It'll be interesting to see if it drops week to week. There was a lot of hype going into this episode. I was watching like American Dad, a new episode of American Dad last night, 2 nights ago. And there was an advertisement for Housing Complex C during one of the commercial breaks. So that shows that what used to be Warner Media, now Warner Bros. Discovery is, trying to get this show out there. But again, only 3 weeks left, so it's not a long-term solution. And it helped the rest of the block. The rest of the block did pretty decently. Just about every other show went up a little bit because of Housing Complex C went up a little bit. And another little note, Lupin the Third Part 6 actually built on Yashahime. Despite Lupin the Third's reputation for being one of the lower-rated shows usually on Toonami when it's airing on Toonami, this is like third different time it's built on Yashahime. Yashahime's been pretty much a disappointment in the second slot in the block, and that's something you don't want to see. And considering that nearly every show after it would at most drop 100th from the show before it dropping 300th from Housing Complex C is notable. And it'd be interesting to see where Housing Complex C does next week. I was curious, like, if you've watched my review, you could probably look it up on my channel. But I was pretty positive on it. I thought Housing Complex C definitely had the potential to be really, really, really good. But I looked around and the general reception, I'll say, was pretty lukewarm. Like, there's some people who felt the same way I did about it. There's some people that are just absolutely saying, no, no, giving up on the show one weekend. And it'll be interesting to see how many of the people who watched this past week will just not return. So it'll be interesting to see the ratings. It's not going to go up from here. Maybe it holds. If it holds 0.12, even if it just drops to 0.11, it's a massive success. And yeah, and really not much you could say because most of the other shows did what they did last week, and they're going to be here forever. Well, Made in Abyss only has probably a couple weeks left. It's almost out of episodes. It's halfway through that season. There's only like 6, 7 episodes left. And like Naruto's here until the Heat Death Universe. One Piece is here until the Heat Death Universe. Yashahime, I think, is like halfway through its second season. I might be off on that. Lupin third. That's probably the next notable slot to go up. Oh, Housing Complex C slot's going to come up soon. But that and Lupin third are going to be coming up. I got to be before the end of the calendar year. So it'll be interesting to see what Toonami does with those slots. And again, another notable thing, I did not know, because I mentioned last week how basically the Toonami originals all got written off by Warner Brothers Discovery. So it will never air on Toonami again, and any possible future projects about it have fallen by the wayside. But not only was Shenmue expected to get a season 2, they're already producing it. They just hadn't made a public announcement saying Shenmue's getting a season 2 yet. That's gotta be just one hell of bad luck right there. Or specifically more Production IG's end. I think Production IG made it. Yeah. But whoever makes it, I think it was Production IG. But whoever made that, so it's just bad right there, man. And it'll be interesting to see if Housing Complex C itself gets written off in a few weeks. It sounds stupid, like, oh, it just aired, but do not be too surprised if by the end of the calendar year, the Grim Reaper comes for that show as well. And Housing Complex C looks like a contained event. It's not going to get like a season 2 or anything like that, but it might get written off, and it might never, probably after the inevitable Halloween marathon, it probably might not ever be seen again. So that's food for thought there. What do you guys think about these ratings? Did you like Housing Complex C? Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I am the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.